Hey guys, I'm so happy to, welcome you to a very special version of the podcast because Suzanne and I were talking a little bit before this hits near and dear to both of our hearts. So today I'm joined by Suzanne Newman, CEO of Answers for Elders, a national platform that's is honestly is helping families and caregivers navigate the complexities of aging with confidence and clarity. And that's something I fully understand as someone whose mother turns 96 next month. Very blessed to have her and blessed to have a sister who is able to care for her. So I so appreciate Suzanne, everything that you do, and thank you, thank you, thank you, because it's such an incredibly stressful time for those caregivers.
Yes. Well, Michael, thank you for having me. And certainly, that's what our content is for. It is to take that burden that you're carrying and just lift it a little lighter every day. Where,
Yeah.
I remember times when I was taking care of my mom, how many days that I had to make major decisions on her behalf because I was her power of attorney. And then I'd lay awake at night and think, I hope I did the right thing because I
Yeah.
didn't have any reference point. So, there you
Hmm.
go. That's why we're here. We are the
Right.
North Star, as we call ourselves,
Yeah.
in
Well, talking
navigating
about
senior
where
parenting.
we are, let's go back a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
I know that this is not where you used to be. Like, something brought
No.
you to this point. So I'd love to start with your story and how did your path lead you into
Mhm.
the world of elder care and resources and advocacy?
Well, I was in sales and marketing leadership for over 25 years. In the corporate world, mostly led sales teams. I worked for Tony Robbins for a while, so I was a
Nice.
sales trainer, and I was really about doing. I was in the incentive industry, and I ended up basically in media, digital media. I was a Google trainer. And
Oh,
all of
wow.
those things in the corporate world. And when one day I was in the middle of giving a sales meeting, and the front desk came in and said I had an emergency phone call, and my mother had taken a really bad fall, broke her pelvis, and I had
Mm,
to rush north to my hometown, which was about 2 hours north, and thus my beginnings as a family caregiver.
right.
Um, Happened in 2006. And from then on, it was crazy ride. And here we are today.
So what actually, I assume that means you stepped away from that big time corporate career, and what led you to do that? I mean, because you could have fulfilled your caregiving role without, creating such a large mission out of it. But what prompted you to do that?
I was downsized from my job because I
Mm,
burned out. Here's the scenario I was faced with, and this was in 2008. My mom had was in the hospital with a severe infection. She was hanging on to me, begging me not to leave her. I had a
mm,
business trip that was coming up. My boss said it's not authorized, and I said I'm sorry. And they basically pushed me out of my job, and
yeah,
it was illegal. But they did what they did, and what recourse did I really have? And here I was in 2008, in a time, probably the worst time in the world of a recession,
right.
having to start a business. And so but I realized really quick that when you're 52 years old, at the time I was in 2008, and I was faced with, what am I going to do? And there was hardly any jobs that there was, and the ones that were open, they could pay half the amount of money to somebody half my age,
Mm,
And
yeah.
so I realized really quickly there was no jobs in the corporate world. And um, I I've read a lot of a spiritual teacher by the name of Emma Curtis Hopkins. She lived in the 1800s. She's a New Thought teacher. And one of the things that she says, I'm paraphrasing, if you see a job, it's yours.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
I thought, you know, um, I know exactly what my job is, and I don't ever want somebody to go through what I went through. What needed to happen was education at the time, just because what I didn't know what my rights were in the workplace. I didn't know how to make the right
Mm,
decisions on behalf of her care when it came time for me to step up. And I felt like I was a deer in the headlights a lot of the time. And so I realized that there was a real need out there for people that are navigating this very daunting, difficult journey. And so it started out in 2009, 17 years ago. We started Answers for Elders
Uh,
as a website. And then in 2016, I received the offer to have my own radio show here in the Pacific Northwest.
very
And
cool.
so I have been on air now. We're in our 10th year of broadcast.
Congratulations.
And we became nationally syndicated. We're in 44 cities across the USA. Start about 3 years ago. And then also we have a vast podcast network of over 1,600 episodes on our podcast, and an active growing YouTube channel, about 700 episodes on that. And we're ranked by Listen Notes, which is kind of a podcast watchdog organization, in the top 5% of all podcasts globally. And so we're really proud of what we've created. And I'm thrilled to be able to share whatever anybody questions that they have, content, and we also vet the providers that come on our show. We're very careful about who we interview, why they're there, and so the people that you're hearing from are the real deal.
I was going to comment about how you've created such a multi-dimensional platform that serves
Mhm.
both really families and professionals. I mean, there's definitely a need among the professionals as well. Like
Mhm.
when you reflect on that journey so far, you've done such amazing work. What do you think is like at that top of the list of what you're most proud of?
I have to say, professionally, I'm probably most proud of myself for hanging in there.
Yeah,
Um, I think a lot, especially we women, we're not taken seriously, especially a 50-some-year-old woman. And so I had to deal with a lot of naysayers. And, you know, nobody ever accomplished anything by listening to naysayers, right?
that's right.
So I chose instead to just visualize myself like being the phoenix rising from the ashes, which really is what it was, because I had gone through a lot of hardship in building my company, and I learned really quick that there weren't going to be any real investors for us, because number one, the angel investors that we needed at the time, they were all people that didn't want to talk about aging. They weren't
Mm,
interested in investing in a 50-some-year-old woman. They wanted the sexy new technology like AI,
right.
and they wanted to come into something like that. And so I realized really pretty quickly that if I was going to do this, I would have to do it on my own, and without any previous experience of starting a company on my own. I I just moved forward every day, and there were some tough times. So I guess I'm really proud of that we were able
Absolutely, you
to.
should have. That's um, remarkable, doesn't even say really, as I can think of over the years, the number of obstacles that you had to bust through to get to
You
where
have
you are
no idea.
today. Yeah, you're right. I don't. Yeah, I mean, because it's a space that, to your point, is just not sexy,
Yeah.
right? And there's not big, I'm
Nobody
going to say it, big
wants
pharmaceutical
to
dollars
invest
behind you and
in
all that.
getting old, right? And
Yes,
yet,
it's
what's
what we all try to
interesting.
ignore.
Yeah, and what's interesting too, Michael, is that when I started 17 years ago, Answers for Elders, right? My audience was baby boomers taking care of seniors. Well, it's
Hmm.
17 years later. My audience is pretty much still the baby boomers, but
Yeah,
we're not taking care of seniors
right.
anymore. We're actually the ones now that are
Yeah.
aging. So now my company has expanded to a new company, a parent company, which is called Sagecast. And we
Okay.
now are producing a new radio show that is targeting that Gen X, Gen Y
Mm,
woman primarily, that is taking care of a senior, which is a very different audience. They make decisions very differently. They're much more tech savvy. They are much more health conscious. There's a lot more in that demographic than there was in the boomer generation. So we're adapting.
yeah. I hadn't really thought about that, but you are so right. The
Mhm.
generation changes.
It
So, I mean, it's constantly evolving too, the world
It
of
is.
elder care. Always love hearing from business leaders, like something that's surprised you or challenged you in building and growing answers for elders?
Oh, wow. Well, a couple of things. I would say, uh, it surprises me how far behind the elder care industry is when it comes to technology.
Hmm.
They got a late start because you have to understand, again, their audience was baby boomers, right? And they were, that generation where their residents or the people that were moving in were seniors, and they weren't involved in technology, right? And so even though there's a lot of desire to be relevant, um, they don't get it. They still don't get it. And I have seen probably one of my biggest challenges is being a content creator and content marketing, and where the
Hmm.
whole world of content marketing is going. It's very difficult to reach a lot of people's understanding in this industry as far as how content makes it so relevant, especially in my industry. When I ask somebody in the industry about, what do you think is the most important question at the back of somebody's mind, a family's mind, when they come to see you? And you have a 90-some-year-old mother, so you know this. If you're going to meet with a provider, what's the number one question you may have? You may not even be realizing you're asking it, but it's about trust. Can I
Yeah.
trust you? And what bet there's no advertisement, there's no website, there's nothing out there that can establish that kind of credibility when it comes to trust than a podcast or something in content, because content, they get to see you, they get to know your heart, your intent, your mission, all of these things that are important. And it like I say, your stories deserve to be told. It's the stories that build the trust in that world. And it surprises me that it's just, there's not a lot of connection at times.
You mentioned content a good bit because I mean that's your business, right?
Hmm.
And you and I were chatting a bit off recording, we'll call it, about AI and how it
Yeah,
has been kind of transformational in some
it
ways
has
for
been.
you in touching lives. Like how do you see AI playing a role in helping you connect with the people that need
Hmm.
your information?
Yeah. Well, AI has been an amazing tool for me to prepare for my guests. It also helps me address issues. I'll just give you an example, Michael. Last week, I had a guest that talked all about anxiety. Now, in the last 10 years of doing a show, I have never had the topic of anxiety on my show. It's
Mm.
never come up, right? Somebody may have mentioned it in an interview or something like that, but it was never really a format of a show. How did I get to that? Because in AI, one of the things that helps me be a better host is what are the things that I should be addressing right now on my show? Knowing that AI already knows what my show's all about. It knows my show
Hmm.
clock. It helps me with questions I should be asking. I mean, it's amazing how it's such a great tool for me to be better at what I do. And one of the things that came up was I learned through this process through AI that 1 in every 5 people over the age of 65 has an undiagnosed anxiety disorder. 1 in 5. And it lays out, it's PTSD. A lot of military, that have
Yeah.
that. A lot of fear of falling, mobility challenges. There's a lot of fear in change, or, like just disruption. There's a lot of mental health issues like hoarding and anxiety issues that happen from the pandemic That's even, the loneliness factor. And then, of course, the beginning stages of Alzheimer's and dementia, how anxiety is created from that, and the feeling like your life is slipping away, I never would have even thought that that would have been such a relevant topic. And when that show was over, um, I swear we got probably a ton of shares of the infographic that I put out there on
Yeah.
social media. It was like, wow, this is really important. I never thought of that. So I think it's helped us be better as content creators on AFE. I see a lot of opportunity to delve into even deeper into topics that I wouldn't, because it's giving me data and information that I normally probably wouldn't have known before, because I'm not a PhD. I'm not an expert in all these topics. I know a little bit about a lot, but
And I think about AI in your business. Obviously, you need to connect with primarily caregivers of the elderly, and then maybe in
well, we
some
are
cases the
now the
elders.
seniors.
Yeah, right.
Correctly.
But what about, are there other people like who help support you, like in your business? Who are the people that help you grow your business? Like,
I wish I
who are,
had more.
yeah, who are those people?
I have some great advisors that have helped me through the past. And they are mentors, and being a one woman show that's still not wealthy yet. I hope to build this company, and I'm 69 years old. So I go, well, one of these days I'd like to retire, but that's not going to be anytime soon. And I have no desire to do so. I'm
Yeah,
still absolutely 500% all in, and what probably will be for another 5 years. But I have to realize too that I have to pass the torch, and I have to now. That's part of the reasons why we started Sagecast. Is Answers for Elders is Suzanne, and always will be, probably, but Sagecast as a whole is the parent company now of Answers for Elders, and it will
hmm,
take on things in the future. And through that, we have a great advisory team, we have a great CFO, and of course, my senior vice president of production. I always tell him, you can never quit on me, and he is a major shareholder in the company. And and luckily he has a heart for it too, because his mom has Alzheimer's, so he is
yeah,
dialed in 500% as well, and understanding he's going through the same process like you are, Michael.
yeah, yeah. How do you like, or maybe it's even more relevant for Sagecast than, I was
Hmm.
curious if you've been, so I know you've used AI for content creation for
Hmm.
sure. Have you used it to in any kind of outreach to potential business partners, or in any way to help, kind
Absolutely.
of
Well,
access them?
I do draft proposals with AI. I do flyers and agreements. Right now, I'm just drafting up a host agreement for the new show, and AI has been amazing to do a lot of that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, I also am kind of bound by radio contracts and things like that. So we're in the process of transitioning that whole piece as well, and negotiating with new stations. We just signed on with an agent. So, there's a lot of moving parts happening. And I think that's really the
Yeah,
exciting part. And I'm sure that I'm not getting the full benefit of AI, that I could even get better. But we're very careful, because we don't, our the type of client that we would go after, they have to be fit our criteria, and it's pretty stiff criteria. And I don't let just anybody, advertising is one thing, but I don't bring guests on that don't fit a really strict
right,
criteria, because it's people's, life, their loved ones' lives that they're making decisions on. And I would never have somebody on that I did not feel that was worthy of being listened to.
right. Oh, well, I mean, that's, again, you mentioned trust earlier. That is
Hmm.
really what your audience
Yeah,
is looking for. The
absolutely.
fact that they trust you because you've worked so diligent on ensuring that's the
And I think
case.
that's, yeah, I think that's why we've been on the air for 10 years.
Hmm.
And I've had salespeople be mad at me at the radio station because they've signed on a new, provider, and they want to do an interview with me, and I will vet the provider, and I'll say, he just bought the franchise 8 months ago for a home care agency. He's not qualified to be on my
Right.
show, and therein lies the challenge with, this whole world, because it's just so again, we have to be very, very, very careful. So a lot of times people will approach me and say, well, we can bring you leads, and it's like, it doesn't work that way for us, because I don't need the quantity of leads. I need the leads or the partners that comes in that is worthy of a family's trust, and that
Yeah.
is not easy.
How do you find them? I mean,
um
you can evaluate them if they come to you, but how do you find them?
a lot of times they come to me. But I'm also very blessed that I've been in the industry for a very long time, and I know people who know people. And as a result, because we've just kept our mission the same for as long as we have, I know who the main players are at this point. I look for
Hmm.
national, people that have a national footprint, that have, I check their social media, I check their reviews, I look on,
Right.
I check their LinkedIn to see about their background. Before anybody comes on, I personally check that out. And I'm very proud of the fact that we've stood firm. The other thing that I've really been stood firm on, in our radio station, we're on conservative radio stations. It's because of the demographic. It's an older demographic that listens
Right.
to conservative talk, or, Christian teaching and talk. So
Yep.
I'm there to go to the audience, right? And so I've been very careful to stay not political, not religious. And it's been a challenge at times being on stations like that have said, "Oh, we want to put this person on your show," and I've had to say
Mm.
no. And it's because everybody deserves care, and I don't ever want my YouTube channel and my podcast and my whole footprint to be, saying, well, all she cares about is a conservative audience, because that isn't the case. And obviously, I have to ride that line of, not bringing in any of my personal Democratic or Republican beliefs, either
Right.
way, onto my show. So I'm very
Yeah.
careful. And in producing this new show, we're going to be having 4 hosts of the shows,
Oh, wow.
and that's one of the rules. Where it's apolitical and
Leave it at
there's
the
no,
door.
yep, leave it at the door.
Yeah.
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 So there's a lot of things that we're doing in that regard. So it's kind
Well,
of a
again, that's such
roundabout answer to your
and
question. So I
no,
apologize.
no, it's good. I mean, it's so funny how often your comments bring it back to trust. Like
Mhm.
your audience has to trust that, your guests, et cetera, are not going to
Yeah.
voice, opinions that really don't matter to them, right?
No.
They're here
No.
for a specific reason,
Yeah.
and that's what they're looking for you and your
And
guests to
how
provide.
often do people say to me, when I'm talking to a provider or something like that, it's like, well, I don't know if I want to, because Seattle is a very blue, progressive city, and I'm in Seattle, and I will say, they'll say, yeah, but you're in that conservative station. And I said, and how many of your residents, Mr. Senior Living, do you have that are conservative leaning? Well, most of them. So that's why the show's there.
Yeah.
And it's like, everybody deserves care. Does that mean you don't care for them? Well, no. It's the fact that we have to understand that we have to go to them where they are.
Right.
And that's the other thing is AI has helped me is, we're putting this new show on a completely different station because it's a younger demographic, and it will serve better on a different station. So now it's a great thing because when we have a sponsor for a radio show, now they're sister shows, and as a result, they're going to have a wonderful opportunity to be in both places, right? They
Right.
can tailor their message according to which audience they're going to be going after. So,
Are you and your team at all responsible for lining up advertisers, or is that handled
that's
by the?
me.
Yeah, that's you. Okay,
Remember,
I
I
see.
came from that industry.
Yeah, yeah,
I
I do recall.
I schlepped yellow pages for a long time there, my
Yeah.
friend.
What about, I'm curious, so that's a completely different, I mean, not different from what you've done, but different from what you have been doing more recently. Have you ventured to see how AI can connect you and help you in that regard of connecting with those people?
Um, I probably need to know more. But the interesting thing is remembering in my industry is pretty much everybody knows everybody. It's a very
Mm,
tight
mm,
industry. And not that I wouldn't at all be thrilled to have other tools to reach more people. So please don't get me wrong.
I
Like
get
right
you.
now, I want to go into Florida. I have an opportunity to move my show into the Florida market. Come on. What do I do? I need to be in
That's where I
Florida.
live.
Yeah, well, there you go, Michael. But I don't know. I need to find a sponsor to get there. And I don't even have time to mess with it. So that's
Right.
where, when you're saying that, it would be like, wow, would be an amazing opportunity to be able
And
to.
sponsors to you, I mean, obviously they're relevant to the topic we're talking about,
Mhm.
but are they a particular, like, how would you describe them? Or is it just anybody that's kind of in that
Anyone
industry
that
or in that
would serve
area?
seniors,
Yeah.
whether it's all of our content falls under four major headings. Okay, financial, legal. Okay,
Hmm.
um, living solutions, life transitions, and and health and wellness. So any of those types of businesses that that we have 65 categories of expertise. And we have a lot of ways in which a sponsor could participate, from just running ads on the podcast network. That's the lowest price point,
Right.
to all the way up to being a content creator, which we call trustcasters now, by the way.
Okay. Ah, nice.
And the trust casters are our specialists. They are the people that provide content, interviews, and then we are moving into producing new shows for these content creators on their own. They don't need me once they're established. Like, we have some amazing content creators that I've been interviewing for years and years, and they deserve their own show. Just getting them going, though, is like,
Right.
but we
Yeah.
provide all the support to help them to do that, and we produce their content and everything, and we run SEO to YouTube, so that we make sure that everything is kind of centralized on YouTube. My demographic, the baby boomers, they gravitate more to YouTube than they do listening to podcasts. Not
Hmm.
that those podcasts, it's evergreen, so it doesn't matter that content's evergreen, and we could do it, 10 years from now, somebody will still listen to the content and
Right.
it'll be relevant. So,
Yeah. So much amazing work you've done and so much more to do. Not to overwhelm you.
yeah. Well, and it's a very fast moving world, and it's like I said, it's given me all my gray hair. But the thing that I think is really exciting for AI is it gives us an opportunity in the industry. Just, in the senior industry, it's huge. It helps with fraud protection for seniors. It
Hmm.
helps with fall prevention and alert, it can even alert if somebody's experiencing a stroke or something like that. It also gives, the ability now to monitor much more effectively so that seniors can stay home longer. One of the challenges always has been, with my mom's generation is, she couldn't quite. I was always worried for her to get from the bed to the bathroom at night,
Right.
and having the ability now, if she fell or something like that, to get an alert or have that ability to connect with your loved one through AI is
Hmm.
huge. And giving them the ability. I mean, I remember when I first started Answers for Elders, the story of a lady that walked out to her garden, and she was in her backyard, and she fell and she couldn't get up, and she laid there for 2.5 hours before somebody
Mm.
found her. And I think AI has the ability. I wear my Apple Watch today, and how many times have I fallen, even just my own klutziness, and luckily I'm fine, but um where it says it looks like you've just fallen. And so having these abilities to, this technology to know that you have some assurances out there. And that's the thing. I just did a whole show with Chateau Retirement here in Seattle, and they use a fall detection AI program called Augie. I don't know if you're familiar with that,
Mm-mm.
but
No.
it actually um, it understands the typical movements of a senior after a little while. They know how many times a
No.
senior gets up or anything like that. It also detects if there's anxiety, if there's anything going on, and it will send an alert to the nurse's station if there's something not right. And they have it right now in their Chateau Gardens, which is in their memory care, which is huge for those that are sundowning and things like that,
Right.
at night. Those are all things that AI has been able to do for their residents. That's been phenomenal.
Yeah, just there, and I think we said this earlier, you said this earlier, it's just such the tip of the AI iceberg.
It's
Uh,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it really is incredible that it truly mostly is a 2025 phenomenon, right? It's
Yeah.
been around for longer than that,
Yeah.
but when you see the value it's adding,
Yeah.
it's so new. So thank you so much for sharing your story. How you got
Thank
here
you.
is incredible that you pivoted that way and created something so incredibly valuable to the world. So
Well, Michael,
congratulations to that.
thank you for having me on and having us on. And I will send you, if you're interested in kind of, I've got a little sheet on the ways AI is being utilized in for the care of seniors, and I'd be happy to forward it on to you if it's something that would be
Absolutely. I
interesting.
would love to see that. Thank you. Appreciate
You're
that.
very
Look forward to that.
welcome.